Good evening. I'll call to order the Arvada City Council for a workshop on September 25th, 2023. Kristen Rush, if you'll do the roll call.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Foray.
Here.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Here.
Councilmember Marriott.
Here.
Councilmember Mormon.
Here.
Councilmember Simpson.
Here.
We have a couple workshops tonight. The first is going to be on the bond project updates. And I'm looking for who is presenting on this.
I will take that. I'll
Okay.
just hand off to Britton Thomas, our engineering manager. He will kick it off and lead the
Very good. Hi,
presentation.
Good evening, City Council, Mr. Mayor. Today we're going to talk about all our bond projects. And let's see if this works. There we go. Transportation projects, as well as all of our utility projects tonight. We'll go through our typical outline here. We'll talk about right-of-way, budget, construction phasing, schedule, challenges and risks, and community outreach. And before I hand it over to Padmini to take it off with Ralston Road, I'd like to introduce David Bernard. He's one of our newer engineers, started in February with us, and he's been taking over the 72nd Avenue project since then. And he comes with quite a number of years of experience in engineering, as well as geotechnical engineering, and has most recently been with the Federal Highways, or Federal Lands, is it? Federal Lands, doing roadway projects kind of in the middle of nowhere. And so now he's happy to be back in the Denver metro area where he lives.
This is the opposite of the middle of nowhere.
Exactly, yeah. And with that, I will hand it off to Padmini for Ralston Road.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, council members. Thanks, Britton. I'm very excited to give this quarter update on our Ralston Road Phase 2 project, because we actually completed significant amount of above the ground work, which is visible to everyone. So first I'll start my update with the right-of-way. We completed all the right-of-way requirements that are needed for the project, including temporary construction easements as well. So with that, we ended up spending 20% more than the initially allotted budget for the right-of-way requirements and its services. Coming to the budget and expenditure, the initial budget allotted for this project is close to $19 million. The current expected budget, and due to some of the design and the right-of-way overruns, we are anticipating $22.5 million, which does not include the change orders that we are currently negotiating with the Hammond right now. Coming to the construction phasing, this project is designed to construct in 3 different phases. The first is Notice to Proceed 1, where we plan to do a lot of utility relocations. In Notice to Proceed 2 is planned for Estes to Yukon North Side widening. The bottom 2 lifts are already done. Estes to South Side widening was done recently. Moving on to the NTP 3, this is the phase we are currently in right now. Garrison to Estes North Side widening, which was completed in this quarter, and Estes to Yukon South Side widening, that is also in the process. In next couple of days, our contractor is planning on finishing up the remaining stretch of the south side widening of a bottom 2 lifts. So coming to the budget status and construction schedule, overall we spent about 84% on the project budget, which includes 97% of the total construction budget we already spent until end of June. Right now, contractor is actually pushing the completion date to spring of 2024. Some of the work, straightening some of the landscaping work, maybe a little bit of the top lift. So right now, we are still negotiating with our contractor to see how much of the work we can get it done by end of this year. Coming to the completed activities, in this quarter, as I mentioned, we did complete a significant amount of above the ground work. All the underground utilities are also complete. Bottom 2 lifts on the north side were also complete, and the bottom 2 lifts on the south side from Carr Street to Balsam Street were also complete before the school opening, so that we can actually open Balsam Street intersection before the fall session starts. A lot of concrete work on the south side is also complete. Our contractor is planning to do bottom 2 lifts in next 2 days. So with that, we'll probably done with entire stretch of bottom 2 lifts paving on entire project stretch. So once the concrete work is done, our contractor our contractor third party sub is working on finishing up the ped pole bases and also installing the pedestrian lights on it. There is still some of the additional work we encountered on the north side in front of the Central Park, where we had some of the soft soil which is not suitable for road-based construction and pavement construction. We negotiated with our contractor and asked them to remove the additional soft soil and stabilize it before the road-based preparation. They were able to do that additional task, and this is how it looks after the bottom 2 lifts are done on the north side in front of the Central Park. Moving on to the current and upcoming activities, lot of the road-based preparation on the south side is currently ongoing, so that they can actually get everything done for getting everything ready for the paving in next couple of days. Most of the curb and gutter work is also done on the south side. We have some of the sidewalk work that is remaining, that is planned in the next few weeks. Traffic, if you notice, traffic is also shifted to the outside lane so that a contractor can work on the medians at the same time while they're performing the road-based preparation. 99% of the stormwater work and the water meter relocations, all of that work is done. We just have a Yukon Street left, since that is just on the other side of the other end of the project. They're trying to finish up one last connection in the next couple of days. Last piece of work that they're working on is the landscaping and the type of trees that are coming on to this project. So they're working very closely with our landscaping and parks department to get approvals on the type of plants and the landscaping work that they're going to do on this project. Coming to the additional scope of work, 2 of the 3 items I already updated in my last quarter updates. One item added to this list is unsuitable material, the soft soil that I already discussed on the north side in front of the Central Park. So I'm thinking, since we are very close to end of the project, I won't anticipate any additions to this list. Coming to the challenges and risks, this is pretty much the same slide as I presented. I have just 1 or 2 items added to this list. Private utilities. In the initial stages, we had some delays in underground utility relocations. Contaminated soil and the additional stormwater work on this project. So addition to this is soft soil on the north side. That's additional work we encountered in this quarter. And the third one is the development work. We already coordinated utility connections with the 2 developers in the past 1 year or so. Right now we are coordinating Ralston Gardens development and their utility connections work, while we are continuously working on finishing up the project, Ralston Road project. And last but not the least, the public impacts associated with the road closures. Right now, southeast side of the roadway, we have all the side streets are closed from Balsam Street to until Yarrow. We are trying our best to provide access to all the business owners, either from our Ralston side or the 57th Avenue side, while the construction is ongoing. We do have a few complaints from the business owners. We are actually handling one by one. Not only the roadway closures, we also have some complaints or scheduling issues related to the weather. This year especially, we saw a little bit more than average rainfall, so that has some scheduling issues at the same time that may be pushing to the next spring. Moving on to the community outreach, since there are a lot of road closures and upcoming work-related issues, both Hammond and the City of Arvada have public outreach officers and communication coordinators trying to inform all the business owners and the stakeholders on the project on a weekly basis, on upcoming road closures and any additional work that are going to impact the business owners' schedules. So we are trying our best to communicate with the schools. Hammond is also have a walk guard at the Balsam Street intersection to make sure that the kids are crossing the intersection during school starting and ending timings. So we are trying our best to communicate with all the stakeholders on the upcoming road closures, and if there are any delays related to the closures or any delays related to opening the streets and all that. So with that, I just wanted to mention, we do have, I did mention in the last update, we are anticipating the project would be complete by December 2023. We are still targeting for that, but our contractor is pushing a completion date to spring 2024 with all the checklists and everything. We are trying to see how much of the work that we can actually complete by end of this year, and then see what is actually going move to the next year. With that, I would like to conclude, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Marriott?
Thank you. I have actually a couple questions. So I see that when I drive through there that they're doing the medians kind of on the west side of the project.
Yes.
Are there medians throughout, all the way through the extent of the whole project?
Yes, we do have 7 medians on the entire project stretch.
Okay, and it looks to me like just the first 2 are under construction so far.
Yes.
Okay. And I also understand we're a little bit under the gun timing-wise with the construction season for them to be able to do the final lift of asphalt, and obviously it looks like that will be done. That's the last thing that gets done to put down the surface that they actually drive on.
Yes.
Okay. So the question I have is if and I know this must be a little bit up in the air right now, if we don't get the final lifts of asphalt in before it gets too cold to do that, is there any plan in place for at least all of the lanes to be open, at least when they can, so that as drivers drive on the road, their experience is better? They're not as hampered by, single lane each way and lane shifts and reduced movements and whatnot.
Yes, in the case that where we won't be able to complete the top lift by end of December, our plan is to see if we can open all the lanes to the traffic with the bottom 2 lifts. Once the contractor comes back in April, we'll probably close 1 lane at a time when they're doing the construction. So we are trying to avoid like a large public impact associated with any delays on the project.
Right, okay, good. I would assume that, but I guess what I would hate to see us do is get very near to the last lift of asphalt and then just kind of put it on timeout till it gets warm enough to pave again in the spring, but leave it in a semi-closed configuration if it's not necessary for other ongoing construction. That, I think it is important for the public to be able to have better access. The last thing I have is, it seems like now that this latest lane shift has happened, where at least on the west end of it, traffic is driving in the outside lanes and the center's closed, and of course part of that's for medians, but it seems like there's more restriction as far as access to and from businesses there. And I know that's one of our goals, and one of the things you even said, we're doing the best we can on all that. And I know there's a balance there, but I know of at least a couple of places where it doesn't seem like, at least right at the moment, that there would be anything that would stop cars from going through those center lanes, even though eventually they might get medians or whatnot, just to temporarily have the best access that businesses can. And so I would encourage our team in working with the contractor to really maintain as much access for those businesses as possible, even when sometimes it might be a little less convenient.
Sure, definitely. We just want to make sure as they move towards the east side for the median work, they have a safe enough area to work in.
Of course.
So that's why we closed more than the work area in the center lane. So
Yeah, of course. It's sometimes difficult when you can't cross that center area. That really restricts some access to some businesses, and particularly the west side. I think from Carr Street all the way to Garrison, if you're going westbound, you can't access, I don't think, anything on the south side all the way from Carr to Garrison, and I think that's tough on those businesses, because getting back to 57th, it's a long way and a long way back around to do that. And I know we're doing the best we can, But I just want to make sure we continue to pay attention to that, and if it's possible to make a spot or two where people can access the south side, that we should try to do that.
That's what we are trying to focus on, at least with all the lanes opening, even though when we don't have the top lift, at least we can give the left turn access if we have the two lanes.
Yeah.
With the single lane in both direction,
hard, yeah.
it's hard and it's not safe.
Yeah.
And we are going to see a lot of traffic queuing up. So
Right.
that's the reason why we don't have the left turn lanes.
Yeah, yeah, well, even from a business on the south side to go westbound, they're not allowed to do that because they're not allowed to cross that closed center lanes, and it seems like in places they could. So even if it's not queuing up traffic on the free-flowing lanes, but just being able to cross it. So anyway, I know you guys are doing the best you can. I just want to make sure we continue doing the best we can for all the businesses that are there.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Simpson?
Thank you. So with the ongoing delay, I know some of the residents along Brooks Drive there, which is a detour we take to get around Ralston, have expressed frustration with speeding and just the general increase in cars on that narrow residential street. Do we have any idea about things we could do to perhaps mitigate that just a little bit longer in order to keep those residents happy? Since
On 57th Avenue?
yeah, just north there, around the park.
I don't know, maybe I'll check with the traffic department. They already have a small islands on a 57th, which actually restrict the vehicles that are going at a speed limit, so they actually can't go. So a lot of the people, but we can check with our traffic department to see if we can take any measures to reduce the traffic on that.
Yeah, Brooks Drive.
Brooks Drive on the
Oh,
north
Not
side.
57,
Sorry.
Brooks Drive.
Not
Brooks
57.
Drive, okay.
Yeah, so what happens is right by the park, you take the bridge and then you cut over to Carr, and it gets you past the vast majority of work on Ralston. And I fully confess, I'm one of the people who takes this route all the time.
I do take that route. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't hear the Brooks Drive. Yes. Yeah, recently our traffic department also said they have a little bit of traffic rerouted on that stretch because the people don't like driving on the Ralston with the construction and all that stuff. I'll check with our traffic department and see what measures we can take to reduce the speeding. I know that's a residential area and the next to the park.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great, because I know we have kids and families that cut across
Yes.
that street all the time. So just, obviously, residents have the right to take the street, but just maybe reducing the speeds a little bit, just some traffic calming measures might be good, at least until Ralston reopens and things reset back to
Yeah,
normal.
speed limit boards, like a visual
Yeah.
speed limit board, something like that. Yeah, I'll
Sure.
check with our traffic department and see what measures we can take on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good. I don't see any additional questions. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. I'm David Bernard, just started here earlier this year, and so this is, I've been immersed in this project, and this is my life right here. So, start off here with our right-of-ways. We finally closed our last parcel in August. This is this one on the right side there in the circle that for whatever reason, the paperwork seems to have taken a lot longer for them to get their closing documents through. So that was a big success this past few months. And then we have our 6-month easement extensions, which are coming up now. We're trying to get the contractor to finish up in all those backyards and other adjacent areas there. And that way we can not renew a lot. We don't have to renew a lot of these easements, but as of today, we're looking at possibly extending 5 or 6 more easements for about 3 months. And then there's 2 temporary easements that are on the CP3 side, just adjacent to the railroad track, that we're going to let them expire, but we're going to have to renegotiate them when we have a solid date on when the schedule for CP3 and the railroad underpass starts. And the one thing I forgot there is we're at about just over 105% of our budget for the right-of-way. With the other numbers, we're just under 50% there for the total budget of the project. That's all 3 phases at this time. And then, the owner's rep, we are about to, later this month, we'll be bringing a change order for them at the 16 October meeting. So their services or to extend their services for a year and add increased scope with that as well, with the hours and work that's gone into the project that has exceeded a little more what was originally planned. And then our design, we are currently, the remaining 3% there is covering our changes in the field and design reviews of things that we didn't expect. And we're covering that pretty well at a couple thousand a month usually at this point. So we don't expect to change the money on that yet. And we expect to extend the contract for another year at this point. It's more of a time more than funds at this point. And then with the different phases of the project, we had our construction package 1 finished up with about 11% left over there. And then we're currently did a lot of work this summer, so we're at about 2/3 of the way through our construction package 2. The thing to note there is last month we put through our change order what brought a lot of the CP3 money that was adjacent to the Lincoln Academy and Oak Street, which are kind of the boundary between CP2 and CP3. We brought a lot of those items into CP2, so we made the pie bigger and got a lot of that work done this summer. But that's money that we're not going to be spending later on in the CP3, so it's more of just a transfer. And as far as the phasing here, CP1 was the utilities, which are overall about 90% complete of relocating all the utilities throughout this stretch. And then we have the CP2 from Swadley to Oak, which should be finished in the spring of 2024. We're hoping to have majority of the works finished here before the winter starts and we're not able to pave anymore. We hope to get all that temperature-dependent work finished towards the end of the fall here. And then with the planning, the design phase of CP3 kind of taking a lot longer time, we're going to have a little bit of a gap between the end of CP2 and CP3, which would be everything roughly from Oak to Kipling, including, which is mainly the underpass. And we, looking at the planning right now with that change order, we brought as much as we think, most of what we think we could get done now ahead of time was brought into CP2 this summer. And then just go through some quick pictures here. Back in May, we closed down Oak for a few weeks, and this is a picture of what it looked like during construction when we had it dug up. And then on the right is afterwards. And now we even have the newer signal poles up as well. It's not shown in that picture. A lot of similar to, we had our record rainfall all spring, so we had a lot of delays. We're trying to do dirt work, and every time it rained, it becomes a mud pit, and then we have to clean up because of we don't have our storm network set up correctly yet on the road because it's during construction. We have to go clean up where the runoff takes us, the dirt and extra gravel onto other places. We have to go clean that up every time it rains. So that delayed our project several times during May, June, and then a couple times in July and August. And then most of the work during the summer was on and around Lincoln Academy. What happens here is we're redoing a lot of the storm system and these ponds on the left side of the photos. The left side is before, and then our drone picture from August when the project was most of the way done on Lincoln Academy. We got a lot of work on the ponds left still, and there's a few more parking lots that have been paved since that picture on the right. And the goal here was as soon as school was out, we closed Oak Street, got the intersection done, and started working on Lincoln Academy. And it was, with the weather delays, it was a race to get all this work finished before school started again in the fall, or at least get it to a point where we could safely open it to the staff and students of the school. And what we did, we have the entrances on the north. It has to shift that to the west a little bit because of the underpass that's going to go in there. And then the entrance on the west side on Oak Street, we actually shifted that down to the crosswalk at Parfait, and that is actually going to improve the traffic a lot here through this, and I'll show that in a picture in a bit.
Can I ask
Marriott,
you?
did you have a question?
Yeah, I do, just while you've got this slide up. I assume I know the answer to this, but I just want to be clear. All the the site work there at Lincoln Academy that we see and the difference between these two pictures, that's our work that we're doing at our cost as part of this project, correct?
Well, there's actually, I forgot to explain that, with the contractor on site, Lincoln also partnered with them because a lot of this work was shifting the driveways and the storm ponds on the west side there. That was the bulk of the city work. And then they took advantage of that time to redo their parking lots and redo a lot of the other superficial features because we were already coming in there and tearing up the property a lot. And so that was a win-win, a partnering kind of project for there. But there is about $2 million of their money went into the superficial stuff in there, including the parking lots and some of the irrigation ditch that goes through there in the storm system. And they kind of, parts of it intertwine based on what we're doing. Like our focus is more on the infrastructure being the entrances in the storm system and the irrigation ditch system. And then going for the future for the CP3, there was some water rights work out on the east of the picture, out towards the football field that we're trying to maintain some of the springs and that one of the owners to the south of the project has rights to. So that's another aspect of this that we're working out in the summer as well.
Okay. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you for that clarification. I just want to point out what a good job by you guys with working with someone who's obviously affected by the construction we're doing, but that gets a very large positive out of it. I mean, when you look at these two pictures, you can see the dramatic improvement for Lincoln Academy, and you know, our cooperation with that helped them probably achieve all these big improvements at a lesser cost than if it was just them. And kind of a good example of you guys being really good neighbors, or us being really good neighbors to the people along here who we are affecting with this construction.
And that's one thing I try to stress too is this job's all about partnering. That was a big, in my previous job, that was a big thing, was partnering with our customers, which in this case are the residents. And this is one of the biggest partnering example on this project probably. But when I mentioned there was those 72 parcels that were closed and right-of-ways taken as part of this project, that's 72 individual partnerships, and each one is its own little mini project, some more complicated than others. This is on a grand scale, but we're also doing that on a backyard kind of scale and 50 other locations as well. And that's a huge part of what we're trying to sell this, as well as promote the work that we're doing here as an improvement to the entire neighborhood, not just the city forcing this on people, is the approach I've been trying to take the whole time.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
And so here's a close-up of the new entrance at Lincoln at Parfait Street, and now we're able to build a safer, bigger crosswalk once we finally get it signage up there with the flashing crosswalk sign. And on the left side is the traffic queuing during the afternoon rush hour, and we've added the extra turn lane that allows the through traffic can go around all the people that are stopped to pick up and drop off the kids in the mornings and afternoons. So that's been an improvement so far. That it could be a lot worse over there with the school rushes. And then this is one of the storm ponds before. We've increased the capacity on the right side and put in a better inlet structure. So now that especially with the rains this past spring, it's better management and control of the water to prevent some of the neighbors from flooding out here on this hillside. And on the rest of the project, we have our walls on the east side that we installed on the west side, on the north part of the project. On the wall E on the left picture, there's going to be a sidewalk and bike lane down in front of it. And on the right side, the sidewalk and bike lane is going to be up on the wall in between that white fence, which is one of those, the resident partnerships we had. They wanted us to replace their fence as it was rather than the standard fence. They had a white fence similar to that at first, and we had to do a lot of design and negotiation with the contractor, the subcontractors, as well as the residents to get this reset as close to possible as normal, because it was a retirement project for these neighbors when they built it sometime, like probably 10, 15 years ago when they retired. And then the biggest change was we were able to pave a couple weeks ago. We closed Sims for about a week and paved the north part of Sims, as well as the whole north half of the West 72nd there to got the first 2 lifts on. And just like Padmini was saying, we got to wait till the end to put on the final lift. And so there's hopefully, we're going to do a similar thing of splitting the traffic and working on the medians. And now this gives us some more flexibility to keep traffic going, working around, but we're still going to mainly have just the 1 lane in each direction open. It's not fully open yet, but there's more flexibility to keep the work going and the fewer closures going forward.
Ms. Simpson's got a question.
Yes.
It's not a question, I actually just wanted to say the white fence is beautiful, and I kind of wish we'd done that all the way along. It's very attractively done, well done.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we're working on getting that finalized, and that there is a price to pay with that well done, of course, and that's the trade-off there. So like we said, upcoming work, another one of our mini projects, we're starting to work on the First United Church of Arvada, which is the southwest corner of Sims. They're getting a bigger parking lot and a different entrance to better manage traffic on the road. We're putting in the sidewalk on the north side right now, clearing that area. Start pouring that in a couple weeks, and then finishing the permanent fencing along with that, including that white fence there. And soon we'll be working on the medians. And then our north extension of Oak, the new road is going into the 2 properties there to help promote the development on those 2 lots. And then like I said, the final lift across the entire site. So sometime in the next few weeks, right now it's looking like October 16th, we're going to have a closure on the south side of Sims to do some utilities work that needs to be done. And we're ironing out the details of that closure right now, but it's going to be more or less a mirror of the closure we had last week or 2 weeks ago now. And that hopefully we shouldn't really have any major closures after this. It should be our final major closure, knock on wood. And then with CP3, the major portion of that is the railroad bridge. Just on September 14th, we got our 60% bridge plans approved with conditions. So that was a huge milestone. And I got to thank we got a lot of people on this side of the room as well that helped out. We reached out to the senator and the congressman for the area as well, and that helped out and got this on the radar of a lot of people. And so now we're starting on the 25% detour and SHU-5 plans, and hopefully get a site visit currently at the same time. And we're communicating with the representatives of the railroad now, the review team for the railroad, and that was where a lot of the pressure from the higher ups here helped with that. And things are moving along, but it's still a long way to go. We have to get all these other benchmarks in the design approved and everything corrected. So that's a huge step, but that's the rough schedule now. Based on that, we're hoping to maybe start work in the third quarter of 2024 on the CP3 portion. And that's to illustrate that right now. And with the latest schedule we got from the contractor, including all those future design milestones, we're looking at second quarter or third quarter of 2027 to finish the construction on the CP3 portion. Challenges and risks, covered the railroad pretty well. And hopefully in that process, we're looking to get the bridge design finalized where we can order the steel, because that's a year out in today's world to manufacture stuff like that. And when we talk about our costs and our price going up, it's primarily because of the cost of everything that's gone up since 2023. That's essentially, you could see the same increases when your grocery bills too, is what I compare that to. And then moving forward, we're just keeping on with this and getting the work done and getting this railroad design complete, and that's where we're at now. And this is just a graph of where we plan our costs to be spent here for the rest of the project. And then with our citizens, had always getting phone calls and emails from everyone, and the general concern over the summer is that all the Lincoln work, no one was really seeing that. People just drive Sims every day, so they just see nothing going on, and people were getting very upset that the project wasn't getting anywhere. And so I was getting on the phone where I could and communicate with that to the people, and as well as our other communication staff that support us on that. And like I said before, hopefully just one more road closure for Sims. And then we had the fences are a big deal for a lot of people. We got most of the fences in right now, probably about 5 or 6 left out of all the properties that got them. And then we've had some utility strikes throughout the project, and that's always getting people to let us know that we've done it, and then we can get it fixed as soon as possible. And then the driveway access with some of the older properties along the area, their driveways are directly on 72nd, and that getting the work done and allowing them to still go to work and school has been challenging at times as well, and interrupting people's routines is not a good thing. So, but it's just constant communication with my inspection staff and myself, as well as the communications people that are supporting the project as well. And then with the schools, we're always contacting the schools with the biggest thing now is with Oberon. The students have to cross through the project site, and just keeping those corridors safe has been a big communication with the school, as well as daily checking with the contractor, making things are okay. And then they actually got new drop-off and pickup times, which have actually helped the traffic a lot, especially with our closures when the detours go through the Oberon neighborhood. And then with Lincoln Academy, as I showed before, they got the new drop-off and pickup pattern, and we're looking at how once we get the road detour in place, we have to manage how we can keep that traffic flowing during the Lincoln times. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Mr. Mormon's got a question.
I've got a couple, if that's all right. Well, first of all, I really appreciate the team's work. I understand the enormity of this project, and I do believe that someday it will be done, and we will all then be able to appreciate the improvements that this is making in our community. My first question, and I just want to clarify, when you were showing the schedule of the CP2 and the CP3, and you were talking about the gap that'll happen between when they're finished, do I have it correct that CP2 and Sims in particular will be all finished by this spring? Did I have that right?
Yes, everything. Okay. That's our goal, is to get the section from Oak to Swadley complete, but hopefully late this fall, and then the landscaping and minor details in the spring once the weather turns.
Excellent. And then really my second piece is about safety concerns that I have been hearing a lot during construction from residents. As Ralston has a big impact on our business community because it's mostly businesses there. This is mostly residential. And I appreciate, again, that the work the team is doing with each individual homeowner that's affected along 72nd. Some of the things that have come up are 172nd and Sims with the signaling of the light. And I know there's been a lot of work recently on that, but I just want to raise that up again because we get traffic that backs up on Sims, especially during rush hour, school hour times, and folks trying to get out of their neighborhoods can't because the traffic back up on Sims. So that's one. The second is 72nd and Quail. So again, that's mostly related to I believe, Oberon and the school schedule there and getting a lot of traffic issues. And then finally one on Lee and 72nd. And the issue there is the small neighborhood that's just north of 72nd, and Lee is kind of the only in and out of that neighborhood. And so trying to make, especially in the morning, as I understand, trying to make a left turn out of there on 72nd, the traffic gets backed up going west. And so it's a visual safety of not being able to pull out and see what traffic is going west when you're trying to turn left, if that makes sense. And it becomes a big safety problem there as well. And so I highlight those three because those are the ones that continually get raised to me. And I just encourage you to continue to work with the contractor and see what we can do to, this is, I mean, as I started to say at the beginning, this is going to be a huge benefit to our community when it's all done, but right now we're kind of going through those growing pains, and I know given the timeline, we're going to have to suffer through it quite a bit longer. And so I just strongly encourage you to work with the contractor and see what we can do to address some of these safety issues, because I just hate to see something, an accident happen as a result of some of this going on. So I appreciate that.
Right, thank you. And I'd like to point out too that without jinxing anything, the safety has been very well out there so up to this point, and I think that's attributed to everyone communicating all these things as they come up, and us finding out about it, and then we can find solutions. That's,
No other questions?
all right, I'll hand it over to Britton for the, thank you.
Just quickly, what we talked about today with Ralston Road, we have quite a bit of paving that has happened this summer, and we're looking forward to more paving this week. Again, we're looking to get as much as we can done by the end of this year, and we see that our contractor is pushing a few things into the spring. With 72nd Avenue, the big thing is 60% bridge plans were approved by the railroad, and that really is a big milestone and takes us into quite a bit of the final design for the bridge and the track plans. So we're excited about that. And we are seeing that we will probably have a pretty decent gap between the end of CP2 and the beginning of CP3. I think we discussed this last quarter, but we did issue the remaining debt on the original bonds at $7.323 million. That was in June. And again, we do drone flights on both of these projects every 3 weeks. Those are uploaded to our YouTube platform there, and also lots of good information on the project websites. If there aren't any other questions, I'll turn it over to utilities.
No other questions?
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you, Britton, and I'm going to tell on Britton a little bit. I think he was actually doing a jig down the hallway the day we got the approval from the railroad.
I can imagine.
Good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be here and talk about the utilities bonds. Same format as we've done the last 2 times, which is I'll go through the water projects and the sanitary sewer projects, and then a little quick update on the priority projects on the sanitary sewer, which aren't really bond, but they were part of what triggered all this, so just provide an update. Some fun pictures. I restrained myself, did not show another picture of a filter bottom. I wanted to, but I didn't. Anyway, green grass out at 81st and Kipling, which is in TL4. Gross Reservoir, as a reminder, a good chunk of this bond money is going to Denver Water as part of Gross Reservoir expansion. And then the preliminary design of all of the north trunk line is ahead of schedule. That is the actual cover of the draft report that we received about 10 days ago. So I'm super excited. And get the right button. Quick reminder of what the paperwork on the bond says we can spend this money on. On the water, it's lead and copper rule, the filter solids project out at the treatment plant, smart meters, water line, and then gross reservoir, with about 40% of that money going towards growth, which is gross reservoir, and the remaining money going towards R&R projects, and then sanitary sewer going to the interceptors for capacity reasons, and I'll get into that a little bit in a minute, with capacity money being defined as about 1/3 R&R and 2/3 growth. And that's because we could line the pipes if we didn't need to make them better or bigger. So there's a split there. So water projects. There's not any major changes from what I presented in June. And things are moving along. That's somewhat to be expected. We knew this, that when the water bond was issued, we were mostly in construction for 40 of the 50 million. So not a lot of changes there.
Quick question around the bonding for gross reservoir. Can you refresh my memory on that? Because I thought we pretty much kept all that money. I don't know if it's, like, we actually saved it up the years. I didn't know we were bonding some of the gross reservoir, unless we shuffled money around to pay for one thing to
Sure.
another. Did you move color of money, Brian? Is that what that is?
Or Brian?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. From a timing perspective, it made sense for us to move some dollars around. So we needed to use some of the money we had saved up for emergency projects from the
Okay.
last couple of years, and then we offset that with bond dollars for gross.
Okay, and I get sometimes we just change the color of the money to make it work, but it's, I don't remember seeing it on here like that, so, thank you.
We try to get better each time. This bar chart's slightly different than the ones I've presented before, but it's similar information. First one is the 50 million in bond. The second one, which I've shown before, is the total need for the bond projects. And then that last bar has been added, which is the utility need through 2025, the next 2 years. This graph is essentially the same as what I've presented before, with an addition of a line in time, so that we continue to track as we move forward. Again, not a lot of changes on the water side, since so much was already in construction when the bonds were issued. Sewer. I'm going to get really excited about sewer, because there's really exciting stuff to share. We started with 9 projects identified as potentially being funded by the bonds. We are at 8 because we did have some inflation and complications that caused project increases. But of those 8 projects, 6 are ongoing. So we are continuing to march forward with those. The other super exciting is CRT 6, which is 69th and Ward. Did not have a good first bid. We only got 1 bidder, and they were not qualified. But when we rebid the project, we got 6 bidders with a great number that is less than the engineer's estimate, and that was last Wednesday. So we are super, super excited. You won't see that till November, though, because it just has to do with how long it takes us to get things going. But super excited. The other one I'm super excited to share on this is NTL 7. That's 76th and Sheridan. That was where we popped the maintenance holes, and everyone went, oh, wow, that's really close. That is, I say it's now under design. You guys are actually going to see the contract with the consultant next Monday, but I think that's close enough to say we're under design. So I moved it forward.
Could you do me a favor? There's a lot of acronyms on this one.
Sure.
And then also, can you explain what Class 5 is and Class 3 is?
Absolutely. So NTL is North Trunk Line. CRT is Central Ralston Trunk Line. So North Trunk Line is that top third of the city. Central is the middle part of the city.
CMGC. It's not for me necessarily. It's
Okay.
for the public that actually want to know this.
Absolutely,
They
totally
want to
fair.
nerd out with you on this. So to follow our lingo, it'd be nice if we didn't have as many acronyms, and that we can maybe help folks follow along in your presentation.
Absolutely. So I'll go ahead and define CMGC, which is Construction Manager, General Contractor. It's a form of design build, but where the city maintains more control. Class 5 means conceptual. We know we have a project, but it's rule of thumb, it's dollar per linear foot, those kinds of, so it's pretty high level with quite a bit of risk. And it reflects a number that can be plus 100% or minus 50%. Class 3 is where you're at about 60% design. So you have a lot more project definition, which means you have less risk in your cost. So the first line on this table looks like horrible budget, right? We went from 26 to 41.5. Not at all. It's because we moved NTL 7 from not started into ongoing. So it was a huge jump because we've moved a project up into ongoing. The second subtotal planned line, that second line from the bottom, it dropped way down for the same reason. It's because NTL 7 has now moved up into the upper category. We do have a slight shift on schedule for what we are calling CRT 9, and that's because we want to be really judicious about money and make sure we know where we're at. So we have put it on pause for a month or two until we've got a better handle on what the NTL 2 project looks like.
Yeah.
Mary, real quick, just with the handful of months of delay there, the March 2025, is that the original estimated completion date was September, or is that the new one with December?
That's the original, so it may also shift, but we'll see.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes. The NTL2 project, we now have the preliminary design, and as we're working through what the consultant has provided, that project is shifting some in scope. So that's why we're being judicious about that CRT9. All right. The same graph on the sewer side as I showed on the water. They look little because we kept the scale the same between water and sewer to help our brains, or it helps my brain. Hope it helps other people's brains. But again, $50 million in bond, total need for the projects identified, and then that last one is the need through 2025. I'd like to point out that need through 2025 is not the entire master plan implementation, because that's through 2027. And then the other piece in terms of utility need is the master planning was on capacity. It was not on condition. We are advertising this week for some help to work to understand the condition of the Central Ralston trunk line. Vast chunks of the Central Ralston trunk line are big enough. They are also concrete pipe, VCP pipe, and 50-plus years old. So our crews don't have a camera trolley that can do large diameter, so we're going out to a contractor to help us with that. Because we really don't have a good idea on condition on that Central Ralston trunk in places. Again, this is very similar to what was presented last time with an addition of a line on date. That bottom line indicating under contract looks flat, and that's because I didn't put CRT 6 in yet, the one that we just got the bid on, because we're still 6+ weeks from actually having a contract. So once we put that in, it'll start popping up and take out some of that Class 3 piece. Priority projects. Alkire Lift Station is the only one that's not bond funded, and that's because it is being funded by the Metro District. But it is on track to be done by the end of the year, which is what we had projected. Construction has started. And the best news of all that is our electrical equipment has been delivered to the contractor. That's probably our biggest risk item on schedules right now in the water wastewater field is electrical. So we are on track for completing by the end of the year.
Which Metro District is paying for that? Alkire Lift Station?
JCMD.
JCMD, okay.
This is our map, and how it's been updated is shading of lines, moving it from plan to ongoing, and complete for one of them, which is 81st and Kipling. Jumping the gun a little bit, we're not into warranty yet, but sewer's in operation, so I'm going to call it complete.
And it looks beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
My neighbors are like, the park looks better now than it did before.
Thank you. I know the path is better because we made it wider, and that was one of those win-wins we tried to work on with parks. Our takeaways have not changed from previous presentations, with the reminder that sanitary sewer projects were lagging the water when we got the bonds. We're doing our best to keep them moving forward. As I said, super excited. We're at 6 of 8 right now. And that some of our dollar estimates are still Class 5 or Class 3, but we'll get there. And a reminder that our implementation plan was more than this first bond issuance. And that is it, other than questions.
Mr. Marriott.
Yeah, so I have a question. I believe, not any of these slides, but there's either plans for or they're under construction, or maybe it's done, a wastewater interceptor line from out west to avoid the lift station at Alkire. Mm-hmm. Can you just update us on the status of that, where that's at, and how that fits into all this stuff that we just talked about here tonight?
Absolutely. I am going to ask Jenny to make sure I don't get it wrong and to speak up if I do. But there's actually 2 pieces. One piece was built by the Metro District along Highway 72, And then the next piece is being built by the Trailstone developer through their development up towards Candelas Parkway. The JCMD is done, and the Trailstone piece is probably 80%-ish, 75%-ish done.
So they'll do that part as they do that development.
That I'm going to have to defer.
Sure, so they will have to get that line completely finished before we issue building permits and actually occupy any of those Taylor Morrison homes. It's part of our contract, our development agreement with them. But it's well under construction
Okay.
right now.
And the eastern end of that piece that JCMD did, or whoever
Yep.
did, that's already connected to what it's going to connect to, so it's only the western side of it that's incomplete.
Correct. It's connected downstream, and the only piece of the JCMD work that's not completed is like the last stick of pipe that will connect right into the interceptor where Taylor Morrison takes over.
Right.
So
Okay.
we're getting real close.
Okay.
It's under
great.
construction.
Yep, thank you, appreciate it.
No other questions?
All right,
Thank
thank
you for
you.
the presentation. We'll next move on to the second workshop item, which is the 2023-2024 proposed revised city manager's budget presentation. Ms. Gillis?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thanks for the opportunity to present the 2023-2024 proposed revised budget. Brian Archer and members of the city's leadership team will be tag teaming the presentation. You've had the documents for a few weeks now, and I'm sure you've dug in at various levels to look at information that's provided. As a reminder, this is the second year in a two-year budget. The goal of a biennial budget is to minimize changes in the second year. Between building revenues in 2016-17, the pandemic, infusion of federal funds, and other economic impacts, it's been a few cycles since we've tried to hold the line on the second year of a biennial budget. As you're aware, this document includes a lot of great detail, including foundational documents such as your strategic plan, revenue and expenditure summaries, 10-year models, and capital improvement projects. For those of you who like to dig in really deep, you can see FTE counts by fund, and you can see the city pay schedules. There's a lot of information in this document. In alignment with your vision, the foundation for this budget development discussions were financial resilience, ensuring sustainable services into the future. People first, taking care of our employees. Projects, take care of the assets we have and complete the priority projects, which you heard about many of them tonight. And initiatives, be wise in investing and advancing things like sustainability, affordable housing, homelessness strategies, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Tonight, we'll provide a high-level summary of the proposed revised budget, including total expenditures of $387 million for all funds. We can go to the next slide, which shows where this can be found on the website and some high-level information. And then the next slide is what I just covered. I will hand off to Brian Archer.
Mr. Archer. Congratulations to the CSU Rams, who did much better than my CU Buffs this weekend. I'm trying to be humble.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Gillis. So we'll continue on. Very high look at the proposed pay plan. The HR department, led by Gabrielle Baumer, will come back and give a much deeper dive into this. I just wanted to point out that we are proposing a market rate for non-sworn employees at 3%, a market rate for sworn employees at 4%, and everybody who is eligible for a step will receive a step. That is in the budget. And looking at condensing PD1 from 6 steps to 5 and combining our PD recruits. We have 2 steps now, we want to combine them to 1. And the highlight of this slide for myself is for the 5th year in a row, no changes to healthcare, which is absolutely unbelievable. I hate even saying it out loud, but really the credit needs to go to the leadership and all of the employees who are dedicated to making themselves much healthier. And so this is quite a luxury. So deeper dive on October 9th. Take a look at the 14 positions that are being proposed this budget cycle. And that does sound like a lot, but I would like to go into a little bit more depth on these positions. You will notice a couple of items. Number one, we did use some acronyms here. Councilmember Pfeiffer, I apologize. But GF stands for General Fund, TI stands for Tax Increment, PF stands for Parks Fund, WWF Wastewater Fund, SWF Stormwater Fund. Those are the funds that these are coming from. In parentheses, you will see a few other items. You will see a couple of years on the first two. These are positions that are termed, meaning we are proposing to fund these first deputy court administrator for 2 years. That is for the paperless court project. The next is an assistant city attorney for 3 years to help with some of the litigation we have going on in that department. Both of these will be evaluated after that period of time, and we feel pretty strongly that we will not need those positions after that. You'll also notice some items that say mid-cycle. What that means is these are positions that were funded after last year's budget, but before this year's budget. In other words, they're positions we needed immediately. These should look very familiar to you. The behavioral health case manager and the police officers that were grant funded were brought to City Council and discussed, as was the parks worker position. It's a little misleading to say we have 14 new positions. 4 of these positions were term limited positions that end at the end of this year. Those positions are our police record specialist, our evidence technician, and our police services technicians. After having those positions for some 3 years, some 4 years, we realized we cannot do without them, and it added them to the budget, and they are now fully funded. And then that leaves our last 5 positions that are being proposed to be added to this budget cycle. Actually, I missed one. Rachel, I apologize. The legal specialist was also a term position that was supposed to end in 2023, and that position, with the absolutely increased need because of the bond projects and because of our capital projects, we need that position through the rest of the cycle. So there was actually 5 positions that were supposed to end at 2023 and 4 that are being added to this proposed budget. Next, a brief overview of the line items. And as Ms. Gillis said, we really took an approach of not making very many changes. So as you can see, it seems that there are a fair amount of dollars in front of you that we're asking you to approve. If you compare that to the total budget for the general fund, this is less than a 1% change. And many of these items are just keeping up with what we're doing today. So you will notice some dollars being added to streets for snow and ice removal and for operations. This is solely inflationary related. We're not adding services here. Same with our traffic locates. Our VOI, victim, I'm going to screw this up. Victim outreach information. That contract has gone up. It went from a little over $200,000 to just under $300,000. That is for services we're receiving today. We have no choice on this. You will also notice quite a large dollar being added to software and cybersecurity. Again, this is just to do what we're doing today, just to protect the city. So really, these changes are very minimal. Any questions?
No lights.
Next, we'll take a look at some other
They tell me they're working, so.
I think we turned them off, but. Next are some additions to some of our various funds. We did add an additional $500,000 to the annual streets fund transfer. To put that in perspective, in 1999, we were putting $1.7 million into the streets on an ongoing basis. In 2010, that doubled to $3.4 million. In 2020, that tripled to $10 million. And today, that is just short of $13 million. So the city, with your leadership, has dedicated a significant amount of money to streets, and you will hear we have a ways to go. We've added dollars to the Parks Fund, the Little Raven Park that's going to open. Quite a large park, over 8 acres. They need the dollars to water, cut the grass, and fertilize. We've also heard you and added $10,000 for the Zero Waste program. This will not make all of our events zero waste, but it will allow us to do a few this next budget cycle. And then you'll notice on the Vehicles Fund, we've added a little over $1 million annually for inflation. This is to replace just the items we have. We're also proposing implementing telematics. We've talked a little bit about this before, but this should help us right-size our fleet. So we're hoping to maybe possibly bring those costs down in the future.
And the Little Raven Park, was it the Metro District that built that?
That's correct.
And it's not included in their service plan that they maintain it, we're maintaining it? And so these are one-time funds for equipment?
No, this is the ongoing cost to
This is
maintain that
ongoing,
park.
so these are all ongoing costs?
That is correct.
Okay. So 42,000 a year for the 8 acres, that's mowing, just labor?
Fertilizer, labor, mowing, seeding.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the park says a really, they do a very good job of how much per acre. They got this down to a science, and that's what it's going to cost.
Is it a practice that we don't have the metro districts when they put such a big asset in? Because I know Candelas manages all those parks, but I've found that there's several metro districts that are not. Is that standard now? I don't know, maybe somebody else has the answer to that, but I want to make sure I understand that we're consistent with the metro districts on who
Sure.
manages what.
So
they
the
donate.
answer is, it depends on what the development agreement is. And so for this one, for Little Raven, we did not have the agreement that they would continue to care for the park, and we're taking it over now that it's through warranty. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so moving forward, how are we handling that from a parks department? Because, I mean, we're picking up an expense when
Sure.
other metro districts had to pick it up themselves for 20 years or whatever
Sure.
it is. Yet these newer metro districts don't. So, and
Yeah.
now it's an expense to the city.
Yeah.
So should we, I think we're in a dilemma, because if you're telling folks to bring in money for a park or build a park, are we now going to say, okay, we're going to take on that maintenance after the warranty, or are we going to tell the metro districts? Because I think we need better education up here when we're forming metro districts on what the service plan is. And so when I see 42,000 pop up on a brand new park that's ongoing, I figured maybe the metro district should pick some of that up for a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. I completely agree, and the Parks Department is motivated to make sure that, we're having consistency with the metro districts.
And we did have this discussion when the development came in, that we would be taking on operations.
Okay, but is that going to be standard now, moving on all metro districts that we approve, or is it depends?
Well, I'm hearing it's not going to be standard.
Okay, cool. I think we need to treat the metro districts a little fairly on these, and they either own it or we own it, but it's just so weird to have some own it and some not, and it just seems a little odd to me that we take on certain liabilities, but we won't take them in other areas when it's the same liability.
I hear
Yeah.
what you're saying.
So we need to be consistent on that, please.
Mr. Marriott?
Yeah, I just had a quick question, again, out of the Parks Fund. I see this $10,000 addition for zero waste. That's at events, because that's the only place I think I've seen it. What are we spending in total on waste at events, not just where they've got the monitor in front of the trash cans program? Or are we?
Absolutely, we spend, because we do have to clean up after the events, but I don't have a number. I don't know if that's something we even track.
Yeah, well, that's fine. This 10,000 is just an additional 10 to have the monitored trash cans?
Correct, that's correct.
Okay, that's fine. I don't need anything more than that. That's okay.
Well, I'll jump in on that and just
Don't
put
go anywhere.
a request in as we develop that program, because I know it's new for us, that we kind of get ahead of the curve and be looking at reusables, like with our cup and those kind of companies, because I think that could be even a cost savings for us if we go that route, please.
Anything else?
Nothing else? Yeah.
Fair enough. We'll take a look at some additional line item requests. You've heard a presentation last Monday from Sharon and her team around the rate increases and what that's going to pay for. Again, this is purely operational changes in these funds. And what you'll notice is this is what is remaining after they reduced dollars in other areas. And these are all inflationary based. For example, chemicals went up somewhere between 20 and 30%. Pipe for replacement, in some cases, doubled. And so this is what was remaining after they offset everything. You did hear just 10 minutes ago a talk around the increases in capital, and the capital items are not listed up here. A change with this two-year budget cycle is we're bringing forward our one-time requests. As council will remember, we used to bring this to you at the end of our fiscal year. Many of these items we are working on today, and many of these should look very familiar to you. These were one-time items that were brought with last year's budget that were not funded through our carryover this past year. We did feel very strongly that we could fund these items immediately, and many of these projects are in play. So you will notice up there ERP staffing, enterprise resource planning staffing, HR job architecture, family implementation, redundant internet. Many of these are part of our current implementation project. You will notice AIDA grant funding. This was an agreement created many councils ago that when they run out of their ongoing funding, we look to add to that pot. They are going to run out. And so this would help them moving forward. And then the last one we kind of like to highlight, we looked internally to create a training facility as we have a lot coming forth. So we're going to spend some dollars internally here at the city as opposed to continually renting space outside of the city.
Brian, on that AIDA grant, is it grant or is it like low interest loans, or is that separate?
It depends what they do with the funds.
There's a lot of depends tonight.
There is. Yeah, ultimately, the majority of these dollars are grant funded. They're
So
dollars
they're
that
not repaid at all?
They're not repaid.
Because I do remember they have a low interest.
They have a small revolving loan program.
Yeah,
that's
that they
correct.
get money back and then they reinvest. Okay,
Yep,
so that's
and
separate.
That is separate, and they do keep those dollars separate, and
Right.
those continue to roll forward.
Okay, and then the ERP staffing, I don't remember staffing. I remember the software, but I don't remember staffing. So can
So
you
this
maybe
is to
explain that a little
help-
bit more?
Yeah, this is to help backfill the positions that we have currently working on the project. So predominantly in the finance world, the HR world, and the IT world, we did not hire any additional team members to implement the project. And so we're going to try to have them implement. And so where we can supplement, either by hiring former employees or outside team members to do the day-to-day work, that's what we're trying to do with these
So this
dollars.
is like contract labor or
Could be contract
temporary
labor, yep.
seasonal employees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and then on the technology side, it's really a pot of money that they may access. So if we don't need it, we will certainly return these dollars.
Okay, thank you.
So I heard Councilmember Mormon ask this question earlier about were we going to review some of the items that were unfunded. And so this really is a recap of the slide that you saw a year ago that really talks about the major areas of unfunded dollars. And so street maintenance, for example, you heard a presentation about a month ago that we're $8 million under on an annual basis just to stay where we are, not even to move the needle. On the traffic, we're a little over $2 million on an annual basis to just keep up. Our PD hiring plan to keep up with the growth of the city requires $1 million per year starting in 2 years, and that grows up to $3 million a year at the end of build-out. And again, build-out 2035, 2040, but we're looking at that. We've heard a lot about inflation, taking lasting care. Ms. Gillis introduced that item. Again, we've seen inflationary increases 7, 12, 15%. On the capital side, we've talked a lot about this tonight and in previous meetings, but certainly we know we were short on 72nd Avenue. We know we're short on Myers Pool. You saw Mary's presentation that the water, wastewater, and stormwater capital needs over the next 10 years are upwards of $450 to $500 million. We've heard a lot about parks and ADA challenges. You went on a visit last Monday for the Lake Arbor Pool, and again, inflation on capital. To take a look at our CIP, we made no changes to our CIP other than in the ADA environment. So we added additional dollars to streets and parks to make sure that when we're addressing any projects that we address the ADA needs as well. And so various levels of dollars being added, but somewhere between $50,000 and $150,000 added to those areas. I like to put this up here. The numbers are staggering to me, but right now we have over $395 million in process from a CIP perspective. I choke every time I say that number, and that's only half of our unprioritized CIP. We have over $461 million of need still. You can click on that link and go back to the June presentation. It's also available online. Any questions there?
We're good.
Okay, so that completes our overview of the budget. Next, we're going to dive into our work systems, and we've asked each of our work system leads to come and give a 5-minute overview of the challenges that they're facing over the next 2 to 5 years. So I get to introduce Jessica Garner, our new CED director.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor, council members. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Jessica Garner. If you need anything for community and economic development, please know that I can be a resource for you, and so can my excellent staff. So I'm going on day 6, so anything that's happening with regard to our budget, I'm grateful to our staff for helping us put this together. And if you have any questions, please let me know. But generally, we have these 4 divisions within the work system: economic development, housing, planning, and building. And within each one of them, we're going through a number of changes and evolutions as the city grows and changes. So I think the biggest thing to think about is that as Arvada continues to get to a point where we're really focusing on infill and redevelopment, those green fields are getting developed, the new housing developments are being built. And once that happens, we'll shift our focus and our priorities to focusing on infill, some of the more complex projects that come with that, looking at a comprehensive plan update soon. The comprehensive plan was done in 2014, so best practice usually says maybe every 10 years you should take a look and do a refresh. So that's going to be coming up. With building, obviously we go through these code cycles. The 2024 code is the next one coming up. It's a big, hairy one. There's a lot of change. So we'll be looking at that coming up towards the middle and end of next year. And then with economic development and housing, the biggest issues are how do we retain and attract excellent, high-quality businesses, and how do we address the not just affordable, but all the housing needs that Arvada has, ranging from extremely low income all the way to market rate and beyond, and that is obviously a huge challenge. So we'll continue to tackle that in the coming years. I have no more updates. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you very much. All your presentations won't go so easily, just to prepare you.
Well, good evening. I'd like to speak to the infrastructure work system. Public Works and Utilities have some common themes. And at the top of the list, you've already heard a lot about inflation and the impacts to our projects. I really wanted to have you take away that our team is working very closely to tighten our forecast. So you've heard a lot about how we're very closely monitoring the schedule of our projects, how we implement those program plans, and then talking a lot about our level of confidence in our cost estimating. So thank you, Mr. Pfeiffer, for the questions tonight on our cost classification system. We're using that to help have conversations with leadership and finance to help us really tighten our forecasts, talk about the level of project definition as it develops, and then help us reprioritize and make adjustments. Also earlier this evening, you heard a lot about all of our major projects that are listed here. And so this is a lot of our CIP, and I wanted to say thank you to the council for resourcing these projects, and a lot of that comes down to also providing the engineering staff capacity to help us deliver. A resilient workforce is something that we're dedicated to and we're committed. So we've been implementing technology enhancements to help us be more efficient in the field with our inspections, with our engineering project delivery. And overall, doing a lot of cross-training so that we have the right bench and we have smart staffing to help us continue these projects, as you've seen changes in some of our team members moving forward throughout the project life cycle. We've also been doing a lot of work on the system plans. You've heard us trying to distinguish the capacity-related needs from the taking lasting care or aging infrastructure, those reinvestment needs. And a lot of this planning has been directed by the council, it's been completed or is continuing and underway. We've been talking a lot about the utilities system plans and how we're programming that not only into the 10-year model, but in those longer range cost models. And you heard Mary mention tonight that a lot of that was, we have a really good understanding of capacity, but we're still doing some of that condition assessment work to help inform that reinvestment or aging infrastructure component as well. And then the projects that are being proposed this cycle or that are underway, the transportation system plan is a big one for us. A first of its kind, TSP is going to help us really prioritize a lot of our transportation related projects and traffic needs moving forward, and that'll be completed in 2024. And the facilities plan, so we'll be looking closely at utilization of our city facilities, condition, and helping prioritize some needs across all of our city facilities and buildings fund. So I think that's all the update I wanted to provide tonight, just really talking about how we're focused on implementing the plans you asked us to do and building the right team to do it.
I don't see any questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, City Council. I am going to be representing the Organizational and Service Effectiveness Work System. As you can see, the 5 departments in front of you are what makes up OSE. These, of course, are our top priorities and areas of interest for the years coming. We've already talked about ERP, which is the Enterprise Resource Planning. I like to describe that essentially as our infrastructure for our organization. All of our business processes that support us as an organization are going to go under this new implementation from Oracle to Workday, and that's over the course of the next year and a half. Of course, we're paying attention to ever-evolving technology, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, those things that impact us greatly in ways we don't even know yet, continuing to be on our radar. We have a new workforce. Our incoming workforce continues to change. With that comes changes to the work itself. So as an employer of choice, we want to make sure we're on top of what our workforce expectations are, as well as providing a work environment that continues to be that employer of choice approach. We're expecting a new city council. With that comes a lot of change in dynamics, relationships, understanding and growing with potentially new philosophy, policies in place. So all of that we need to be prepared for and be able to support our newly elected officials.
David, did you know anything about this?
Where have you been? As we've pointed to already, we're seeing a trend and an increase of legal claims and legal matters for the city. Our society as it is, we know to expect work will continue to be of top priority in that to ensure we're protecting our organization and our assets. Our DEI assessment is exciting. We're at a point where we're wrapping up the work with our consultant and looking forward to going into our action planning phase, which will address some of the recommendations that we'll be finding. We'll be reporting this back to you towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, and that work will continue on into the years. We look to our action plans and how we will address our services for enhanced levels of service and service delivery. Of course, the homelessness strategy remains our top priority as well. We are looking forward to a larger strategic planning session coming up in just a few weeks. And then as we mentioned, and as you've heard throughout the evening, you see that the OSE work system is primarily departments who are what we call internal service providers. These internal service providers are a huge source of support for our larger city projects, those bond projects that you see. So much behind the scene work from our legal department, finance, city manager's office, and others. Those continue to be on our radar and will. Those are the updates I have.
Again, no questions.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, and members of council.
Good evening, Chief.
This will not be a surprise to you, but our police staffing, our recruiting, and our retention is the biggest issue that we are dealing with right now and will be facing in the coming years. Since 2021, we've hired 64 sworn officers, but we've lost 77. That at a backdrop of a pandemic, a national narrative, and then also, of course, the murder of 2 of our friends and colleagues, which has been very difficult. And so our recruiters are working very diligently, trying to be creative in how we get word out about how good the Arvada Police Department is. I'll jump to the third bullet there, which is civilianizing positions. So we also recognize that not all of our work requires a sworn officer to do. So we are in the process of hiring civilian accident investigators that will be able to help us with about 1,000 property damage accidents a year. We are beta testing a project where we can actually send civilian employees out to take a report on a cold call, whether it be a cold burglary or a cold car break-in, where of course no suspects are on scene, but they can take the report and process the scene if needed. And then lastly, we have transitioned, or will be transitioning, one of our sergeants who oversees code and AMO into a civilian position, thus allowing us to bring back that sworn sergeant position to supervise sworn duties. So those are some of the efforts that we're attempting to do to meet our service needs. But of course, we've given up vacant police officer positions for those to use that money so that we can use them in these non-sworn capacities today, as opposed to holding on to that money for vacant positions down the road. And then the next issue, the second bullet there, is our evidence storage. I'm sure we've discussed this with you over the years, but we have about 71,000 items of evidence that we store, and that those items fluctuate throughout the year. But it's a growing demand, and our facility is simply not sufficient to meet that demand, especially in coming years. And each year we go without addressing this issue, it becomes more critical. So we've been working with Public Works to identify a location that we can more permanently store these items of evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just a real quick update from the courts. Our biggest priority and focus right now is transitioning to a fully paperless court. It's a project that we've been working on for 2 years since I started, even prior to when I started, and it's something that I am 100% dedicated and committed to finalizing within the next year. So that is our biggest priority at this time. We're continuing to build our One Small Step court and to support the defendants in that court. And we're also continuing to build our other dockets and support those as well. But our biggest project is the paperless court.
Judge, the work you're doing with the One Small Step court is being recognized throughout the region as being a real example of how to handle that issue as best we can. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. It's been very cool. We've had a lot of visitors lately to come and observe our docket. And I think that the great thing that's coming out of it is not only are we sharing our ideas with them, but they're sharing ideas with us, and that only helps us grow and get better as well. So It's been a really good collaboration.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question for the chief. You're taking some of your sworn officer positions to do these civilians. Do we need to talk about, I heard a hint of, the city's growing, it's getting bigger, but it seems like there's a hint that regardless of your vacancy, does the number of sworn officers need to increase over the next few years and so forth? Because it sounds like right now you're just...
Yes, especially as we grow in the city, not just out west, but vertically in the southeast portion of the city, our services are needed more and more. And so, at this point, we're not asking for those positions because we have so many vacancies. But as we get closer to full staffing in, several years from now, we will be asking for more positions at that point.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief.
All right, I'm going to talk about a few of the important themes that the VCN work system is thinking about now and looking forward into the next 5 years. You've heard about inflation, just the increasing cost of doing business, from fertilizer to seed to labor to utilities. Our team is talking to the city manager's office and finance in both our operating and our capital budget presentations around the theme of inflation, and you've seen that in some of our peer work systems as well. Aging infrastructure is also a theme, so we have a philosophy of taking lasting care of the assets that we build and maintain in our community, and so we are looking for ways as we approach build-out to identify sustainable ways to continue to fund the improvement of our aging infrastructure for the enjoyment of our community members. Our environment's also changing, and the city manager's office will hear me say a lot that our team is really at the forefront of the climate change crisis. And we currently, our service levels and our maintenance standards are not right-sized to meet the adaptation and response requirements that we're starting to feel as a department. So this is related to hot, dry summers, severe storms at times that typically, our department hasn't been used to, and how we can meet the expectations of our community members in the response and the maintenance of our natural resources during environmental change. So we're looking at best practices and identifying case studies and pilot projects that we can test and work with our residents to identify things that we can adjust to make sure that we're well positioned. And then finally, we are dedicated as a department to taking a data-driven approach to right-sizing our services to changing customer needs and preferences. We hear fantastic ideas about new amenities and new community needs from our residents and our customers. And we're using a lot of engagement and strategic planning processes now and over the next 5 years to make sure that we're making decisions about investment that are going to meet our community needs for the long term. So some of those projects that we're going to be seeing on the horizon are an update to our Parks, Open Space, and Trails Master Plan. We're also going to have a market and feasibility study for our golf courses and our restaurants underway next month. So you'll see the results of that in early spring of 2024. And then also the results of the community survey that we've been doing every year has been really illuminating and helping us determine kind of what our community wants now in the future and how we can invest in a way that our community desires. So are there any questions? Okay.
The lights are obviously not working tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to turn it over to Laura Gillis.
Very good.
And all of a sudden, the lights are going to start working. I can see it coming. Okay, so next slide, please. So what I want to talk about right now is really foundational to the budget process and future budget processes, but it's about financial resiliency. And I do want to talk about the 5x5 because that wouldn't be as meaningful to you as it is to our executive leadership team. 5x5 means in 5 months we'll have a solid 5-year sustainability plan by work system. And so that 5 months started about 4 months ago. So we are deep into preparing this resilience plan. I want to remind you that this is part of your strategic plan. We've talked about this for a few strategic planning sessions, and it is about developing and begin the implementation of municipal resilience strategy to prepare and adapt for the urgent threat of changing environment and resources. So we know things are changing. You've heard that in what our team presented as far as what they're paying attention to and what's happening. So we are deep into the preparation of our financial resilience plan, which will be coming to you later this year. Next slide, please. So this is our rally cry as an executive leadership team. It's a call to action. It is the important part of our work in digging into our budgets and looking ahead and seeing what our service levels are, what they can be, and how we sustain them. And very importantly, if any of those service levels are going to change, we need to be communicating with you and sharing our thoughts as far as what we're facing, which is part of what we've done tonight. The work did begin in June, and it is part of the budget process. We are not done. We have work to do. We'll be looking at our services and our service levels, revenues and expenditures. You've seen the revenue manual. We're working on additional points of revenue as far as bringing you options. This is what you asked us to say, or what are the resources that we can seek related to revenues, and what service levels can we change. We're developing themes as far as what they're facing by work system. What gaps are there? What are we not able to close, and what can we do? And then looking at strategies and plans. I will share today, I did meet with Jacqueline Rhodes, and we looked at the Public Works initial draft, not done yet, related to the resilience plan, and it is good work. It is really forcing all of us to dig in deep as far as by program. What are the programs costing us? What level of services are we providing? So all departments are working on this, and we'll have a document that will set us up going into next year's budget development process, but we will be greatly informed. When I say we're looking at a 5-year plan, we do 10-year modeling, but because there are so many things changing, we're focusing on 5 years for this work so that we can predict and understand what we may be in front of us as a leadership team. Any questions on that?
I guess the lights still aren't working.
Yes. Next slide. I really didn't mean that. So next steps. We will be back. You'll see the first reading on October 2nd. I heard tonight that you're looking for another workshop on utility rates, and then we'll also have the workshop on the pay plan on October 9th, and then second reading of the proposed budget will be October 16th. And with that, any other questions?
You're getting off easy. Oh, whoa, whoa. Oh, I thought you were reaching for your button. You're getting off easy. Oh, Mr. Marriott.
I guess I can't resist fulfilling my role here and editorializing at the end of the budget workshop, as always. This is all great work, and great work by each member of the team who operates these systems. However, as over the last couple months, we've seen one thing that to me is the big thumb sticking out, or the big problem here, and that's, we are doing such a good job at the city at all of our responsibilities with the exception of one. And that's we are significantly falling behind on our streets maintenance. And we are just not even close to what we should be doing. And I realize in that workshop we talked about strategies to fix that and all centered around new revenue. But I understand that's one possible option. But the voters are going to have something to say about that. And they may be positive towards that or they may not be. If they are not, it doesn't, I believe, remove our responsibility of taking one of our core responsibilities and at least being closer to meeting the mark like we are on all these other things. And, you know, our police vacancies is kind of a different subject. But I would love to see as part of the ongoing budget, not for this year, but as we go forward, other options, strategies to taking care of that one thing that really tends to stick out to me, which is our lack of streets maintenance. And as we went through this presentation today, a couple things stuck out. And a couple of those things were, you know, as we go forward, we have a number of things coming, whether it's a new comprehensive plan or a transportation plan, facilities plan. You know, as these plans get done, then there's the implementation of these plans. And I wonder if we can think about, you know, is it more important for our citizens, the city, to have a transportation plan implemented quicker, or is a viable strategy to, since that plan is underway, to just slow down the execution of that plan once it's done? I think about the comprehensive plan. I understand that we should do one of those every 10 years or so, but if we back that up a little bit and don't start that quite so soon, do we gain a little bit of immediate revenue that we can start putting towards what I see again as this big shortfall? We also will have sales tax growth. I realize this is in an inflationary environment and our sales tax growth may not exceed inflation, but it may. And that's something that I've always said, gosh, it would sure be a viable strategy, a reasonable strategy to take at least the part of sales tax that exceeds inflation and put that towards kind of our biggest shortfall. Another thing I'll note, we have at least one expiring urban renewal authority in the next reasonably immediate future, you know, within the next 5 years. And at some point we'll need to start planning for that. And is that a viable source? And so I bring up some of these things just as a way to kind of focus the team on that the only solution to our problems may not be additional revenue, because we don't really have control over that anyway, that we may need to and want to start addressing that biggest shortfall some other ways. So anyway, it's a ton of editorializing. It's not really, there's not a question there, so you're welcome to respond to it, of course. But as I look at this budget, that's the big thing that sticks out to me.
Well, and I appreciate, I'm going to call it a prompt, because in my transmittal letter on page 13, I am recommending a change to our fiscal policy that takes 50% of all revenues in excess of budget and directs it towards the street fund. That would come back in our fiscal policy when it comes in. In addition to that, we did add the $500,000 ongoing this year, but that would be an ongoing fiscal policy change so that if revenues exceed budget, 50% of that goes to streets. That's not a guarantee, but it is certainly not a new revenue source. I would also say, related to any new revenue sources, it would be difficult to go to our voters until we complete the projects that have been approved by the voters, and so that is a couple years out. So that recommendation is in here, and would like to bring that forward as part of the fiscal policy update by the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Pfeiffer?
So that policy would be something we would adopt, that would say 50% of any one-time funds, or how are you looking at it?
We're saying it general fund revenues in excess of budget.
So can we like baseline that, and then you're saying anything north of that would be the 50%? Is that how
Yes,
kind of like an urban renewal?
Well,
that's Brian behind you.
What's he going? Yeah, but yes.
So chalk line somewhere, and then anything north of that.
Chalk line is the budget.
Okay.
Anything north of that, 50% would go to streets. We were trying to keep it simple. We talked about As you'll recall, over the past few years, we've had a couple of options that we've discussed. We've brought them to you, and we haven't taken action. So the team stepped forward this year to say, let's put this out there and see if council would like us to proceed. It's outside of the budget process. It's part of our policy.
And then on your plans, I mean, it kind of brings up something I kind of, a theme for tonight is constrained and unconstrained planning. I mean, I know how plans work and how the government does the plans. We always put everything into the plan and say, this is all the beautiful things we need and may want, but we need to make sure that we have realistic revenues and not just count on assuming we'll approve or a council. Because if this council changes or changes in 4 years or 2 years or whatever, things that we think we may get this year may not happen in following years. So, Dr. Cog does it in the tip, and we need to kind of look at some of those plans when you're going through this process, and we do approve this budget, that those plans kind of look at what is the budget, not the whole thing, including the sink. So, I'd like to get a little bit tighter on those plans so that if anything we fund north of that, then it's hooray for us, right? We can do more. But try to do the minimum to keep the lights on kind of projects.
And that's part of the work of the financial resilience, as far as looking at where that's at.
And then the last thing is just, I'd like to start seeing more discussion truly around asset management in these budget sessions. And I don't know if this is my last time or not, so it could not matter. But at the end of the next time we go through this, clear asset management, you have capital projects, but what are we doing? We hear little bits and pieces, but what are we doing in reinvesting in specific areas? And maybe we can talk offline a little bit more of what I'm looking for, but I like to start highlighting true asset management, not necessarily growth or capital projects, but true, just keeping the lights going and the city operating and making sure the cars work and that kind of stuff.
We can certainly present more information on that, because in order to plan and budget and understand the status of our assets and plan for maintenance, that we have that information.
All right, that'd be awesome. Nope, thank you. Good job.
Very good. I see no other questions. Ms. Gillis, do you need anything else from us tonight?
No, but thank you for your time.
Very good. We stand adjourned.